Kia ora I te whānau. Kia ora and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Minecraft as a learning tool in the classroom. So welcome. We are going to sort of give you a flyby whizzing tour through Minecraft from a primary school perspective. James is here with us today to share his perspective of teaching Minecraft at Forest Hill School. James Robson and Andrew Corney, who's kindly put his hand up to volunteer to do today's webinar. Well, he did and I made him. And it's really cool because we'll be able to see those two perspectives about teachers who can see the potential for this tool to be integrated into the classroom. So I'm going to get us started off here. And hopefully my screen sharing and present mode will be all good for everybody. I'm just going to have a look. If you could all just have a go at ticking inside that chat box and letting me know if you can see that or not and hear me as well before I go any further. We can just have a Y for yes or an N for no. Yes, lovely, roger that. Hello, awesome. Perfect, yes, all good. Yummy, yum. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, everybody. So today is webinar as Minecraft as a learning tool, and how exciting, because as we know, our kids are fully immersed in Minecraft and they're doing it at home whenever they can, before school, after school, lunchtime, and now in school. So that's what we're going to be exploring more soon. So I'll just start us off with a karakia and then we'll get underway. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tunga, kia mākini kini ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai, hehi aka ana te atukura, he tio, he huka, he hau, te hei, mauri ora. Kia ora everybody, that's just settling us in, and we'll have one at the end so you'll be safe on your way home. Thank you very much to everybody who dived into our registration form and let us know what they wanted. Wow, you have a lot of things that you're interested in and have queries about and have a passion for, and these include wanting to know how to use Minecraft in a primary classroom, in a secondary classroom, obviously looking at ways to integrate Minecraft in the curriculum in authentic ways, looking at the idea of gaming, which is really good timing because education is looking at a movement of play-based learning and gamification and gamifying learning, where kids get to power up and level up and learn from each other and collaborate. Some of you wanted a perspective to have a look at Minecraft from a beginner's point of view. Others wanted to see how it can be used to encourage creativity. Some people asked to see how it can enable and enhance learning opportunities. Some people just wanted to know how to use it. Some people wanted to see it in particular curriculum areas like literacy and maths. Other people wanted ideas, and some people wanted to know how to use Minecraft to support English as second language students. So very exciting. And then of course there's the other element of what does it mean to have an educational license, because as we know we have Minecraft as an educational tool now, which is, I believe, free. So hopefully James and Andrew will be able to touch on the educational license for Minecraft, and hopefully in some way or another we'll be able to skim over some of these things because it's just an introductory session for today. This 60 minutes goes very fast, so I definitely have to talk less. Look, while we're about to move on with the presentation I'm about to share with you, I'd really love for you to dive into that chat box and just tell us, if you are, how are you already using Minecraft in the classroom? It may well be that you're just sort of finding out for yourself. It may well be that you are having students just run with it themselves. It may be that you are planning and integrating with it already. It may be you don't use it at all, but you want to. You're in the right workshop if that's you. Just pop into that chat box what you think or see as the potential for Minecraft in your classroom if you are already using it. And I'm just going to move it along while you've got that job to do. Yeah. I just wanted to touch on what Minecraft is, and for some of us who may be new to this, this is basically a 3D block world. It's an open-ended world where the students get to build with blocks that are basically the elements that we would find in the world. In fact, there's a periodic table there that my son could rattle off for you about the elements that you can use and combine and solder and mix to make different things happen inside Minecraft. It's basically about mining for those elements and then crafting things once you find those minerals and mine those. And you can craft things below the earth and you can craft things above the earth. And as my son would say, there's a whole lot of new mods or moderations that have happened to the program over time. And we've got creative worlds and we've got another mode where we've got survival worlds. And in those two aspects, we've got basically a community where students and adults, there's long-standing adults being part of this community for 10 years. We had the anniversary of Minecraft in May for 10 years. And the idea that it's 100% choice. So it's such an open-ended program that you'll start to see examples where people are recreating artworks, massive pieces of artworks that go over a long landscape. Once you hover up and look over that landscape, a piece of art appears. You've got students using noise blocks for sound and music making. They're problem solving themselves and making games. They're retelling stories. They are creating new worlds. They're recreating historical moments in time, landmarks of interest and historical importance. And they are making games and they are surviving in those games. So you may have heard about Minecraft Hunger Games even as a survival mode game that they play. And I'm just going to pause there for a minute and have a look at some of your comments here. Working with homeschooled Oars-funded students who would love Minecraft. Look, I tell you what, like I said, it's a 100% open-ended choice program. So when you start to see students coming together and making choices about how they use this together, collaborating, problem solving, talking, typing, videoing, you're going to start to see that this is such an open-ended creative tool that really the only barrier is us figuring out where this could actually fit into our curriculum and for our students. And by that, what I'd like to do is to actually show you an example of what my son does. Now, my son loves Minecraft. He has met up with a girl in America who had the plot next to him in Minecraft. Yes, the plot, like it's a landscape, a community. So over a period of time, they've gotten to know each other and they've been building worlds together. Now, one of the games that they made, she left a message for him. And the message was, "Dear Galaxy Tubbs," which is his username, "thank you for being such an amazing friend. I never thought that the person who owned the plot beside mine would end up being my best internet friend. And this past month has been so much fun with you and I can't wait for our future." Now, she lives in Colorado in America and he is 11 years old and lives with me in Tauranga. They have found time to be able to see each other when they can between time frames, between time zones. And what they've actually done is created a whole new YouTube channel because they both wanted to be publishers on YouTube but didn't have the confidence to do it themselves. So she's gone and used Blender to recreate their characters and create their own characters to bring back into the Minecraft world. So there's a lot of painting going on, a lot of design. They've both created that banner up the top there. So there's my son's icon with his pet pig Bert. There's her icon with her pet cat Cam. And then they've come together to tell stories. And this is really the powerful bit. This is about over 10 hours in the making the story, and you might recognize it as it's a version of The Cat and the Troll, and it's a retake on a very well-known story that we know. But what I want you to look out for is the creativity elements, the camera angles, the music mixing, the characters, and the retelling the story. Because when you go into YouTube, there is an explanation about the story in practice. And this is, by the way, all by themselves with no adult intervention, not from myself. They got this ready for today's presentation. How come that didn't go? Let's go. Okay, so what we had there, poor troll. What we had there is a troll living under the earth, a troll who lives in his own house, who's come back up through the water, who's living under the bridge, who doesn't like people tripping over the bridge. He goes back down, he gets his TNT, he loads up a trap, he takes out the cat, and then of course he thinks he's pretty happy, but of course you come back to life in Minecraft, you just keep rebirthing, so back comes the cat, and there's a revenge killing in the lava. So, you know, the bottom line there being they've thought that through, they've created that whole story themselves, and then they've gone ahead and done the different camera angles, the mixing of the music, and by the way, that was all without adults. So yeah, but what happens when a teacher gets involved? And this is where we get to say hi to Andrew Corney from Tauranga Boys College, who actually teaches my stepson. So lucky me to be able to say that Andrew could come along today and be able to share what he's been doing with the year 9 and 10s in the inquiry learning class at his school.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks for the opportunity to share my foray into Minecraft. So I've spent probably about a sum total of an hour and a half actually playing Minecraft, but the kids in my class have certainly spent a lot more time than that. So I just want to walk you through, I guess, my journey using Minecraft, which started quite some time ago. Now, hopefully someone will be able to give me the thumbs up to say that they can see my screen.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, cool. Now, I thought I'd throw this on there. So I'm a Google nerd. I love all the Google stuff. So I put my flash little badges up there on the title screen. And obviously, Minecraft is a Microsoft product. So we're sort of jumping between two worlds here, because you're either Microsoft or Google, but we're trying to mix that up. So my first steps, I went to ULearn in 2017 and went to this awesome workshop about a Campbell Potter who was teaching citizenship through Minecraft. And the stuff he basically got his kids to build and populate a world and run it like as a country. So there's all these aspects of, how does a society work? Not only the building of the physical buildings, but how do we have a government? And just sounded awesome. I was like, yeah, man, I want to have a go at that. That sounds wicked. But Minecraft didn't work well across the platform. So my context is we are a bring your own anything school. So we've got iPads, we've got Chromebooks and PCs and Macs. And it just at that time, those devices didn't really play nicely with each other. And the way that education version of Minecraft wasn't free. So it was like, too hard basket, let's move on. But then we met this guy. So this is Craig, and he was one of our outside PL providers. And he is a Microsoft expert and has used Minecraft extensively in the classroom. And that was the sort of push I needed, or that next step I needed to go and have a crack at it in my classroom. So he demonstrated. He came into a classroom last year. We got all the technology sorted because with the change to Microsoft, the technology worked a lot better. Education Edition was free. It worked, across multiple platforms, whether it was a PC or an iPad. And so he said, "Look, I'll come along and I'll take this lesson, and you can sort of see the capabilities." So yeah, we just dived in and had a go. So we had this context in our Year 9 program about mission to Mars, and we tried to tie a lot of our learning to this theme of, going to Mars. So our first sort of step was, well, look, if we're going to go to Mars as a species, what are the type of things we're going to need? What are our basic needs? How can we support those on a different planet? So we had some sort of brainstorming and questioning about that. And then before we went into the world, it was like, okay, so you're in a team. We divided the class into 3 groups, or well, Craig did, and said, what are some of the things you're going to need? What are some of the things you're going to build? And we were using a full creative mode, so the resources were unlimited, and really engaging for the boys. They were just into it for. It lasted, I think, 3 or 4 lessons. They just thought, "Oh, sir, can we come back and do some more Minecraft?" Like, that was really good. And I guess it was, just playing, but there was some sort of link to the topic that we were covering in class. so came back to it again this year, and we've just with the year 9. So we again, I repeated that unit of just dipping our toes in and having an open world and brainstorming about what would be the type of things you would need to build if you went to Mars. And then I came across this lesson on the Microsoft Minecraft education site. And so it was a pre-built world, pre-built game, all featured out. Someone put a whole lot of effort into this really awesome resource. So what it was is there was some planning involved. So the kids had to decide before they went into the world a game just to reinforce some of the things that they would need to survive on Mars. And the play was, I think I've got it on the slide here. So you started off on Earth, if you like, and you're about to head on this rocket, but you could only take 27 items with you. So there's some quite good discussion around, well, what do we actually need to take with us? Because once they arrived to the Mars planet, then they were in survival mode, so their resources were limited. So there's some really good discussion around, do we need this material, or do we need to actually have some other things where it's going to, grow some food or things like this. And as I say, I'm certainly not a Minecraft expert. I have not played it at all, but it's the kids' world. They were very familiar with all the terminology, and even those kids who didn't play it a lot, were easily orientated into what they needed to do. So they got these 27 items, and then this is a picture of them in Mars, and there's this group of boys in there, 6 of them I think it was, creating this Mars base and living life in this virtual world on Mars. And as a teacher, some really powerful tools. So this is classroom mode. So I'm able to have an overview of where the students are at. They log in with their school ID, so it's authenticated, so their names come up. You don't get that. Kids like putting these different names if they're able to put a display name. Well, that's all taken care of. They just use their first name and last initial. And it's very easy to manage that. And obviously, boys being boys, there were guys in there that's just mucking around, and you can easily sort of move them into different parts of the world using that classroom mode. I then went on actually before that, so it was sort of that bit of learning spread into other bits of learning, and I created a Breakout website. So those of you familiar with Breakout EDU, so they'd done this work in Mars. This is with the first iteration. This is their first Mars base. So I used the images that they'd captured as clues for this Mars Breakout website. So you're sort of only limited by your imagination, I suppose. There's a lot of scope to use the activities you've done in Minecraft into other classroom-based tasks. So sequencing. So as I said with the year 9s, it was first of all, survive on Mars, plan, then build. It was full creative. Then we got into this mission to Mars. They could only bring 27 items with them. And then I carried that on. So the year 9s last year, year 10s this year, and I've just sort of dabbled with basically one lesson challenges. And I found this world called Science Island, and it was all built up for hypothesis testing. So they were testing how water worked in the Minecraft world and what's a hypothesis and how can they test it, because we were covering the scientific method for part of our science curriculum. Had an awesome fail in this build battle world. So the idea was they were in groups in the same world, but they were locked off in a build battle area. And then once they'd built this sort of fort, if you like, then they were going to have this battle against the different groups. And they'd built some awesome stuff, and then it came to the battle, and I couldn't work out how to remove the barriers that were between these forts that they created. So yeah, learn through failure. You got to role model that. And then the most recent one was last week, this Hunger Games, and so really engaging for the boys. It was a Friday afternoon, and I actually structured that around we're doing a social justice inquiry, and I sort of split the class into, right, we've got the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the guys who have regularly completed their maths work. They can have the whole lesson on this Hunger Games, so they were into it, whooping, yahooing. The rest had to do a bit more mundane tasks. So even though the work in the game wasn't related to the learning, the way that we'd structured the classroom was. So we had this discussion about, how did you feel not being a have and not having that privilege of, or having that fun time of playing in that Minecraft world. So again, it doesn't all the learning doesn't have to be in the Minecraft world. You can actually be quite creative. So yeah, quickly through some lessons learned. Doesn't work on Chromebooks. All devices need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. So in the class where I had kids with their own MacBook and PCs, and I topped up those guys with Chromebooks with a school-owned iPad, but because that was locked into a different Wi-Fi network, those devices they couldn't connect on the same world. So every device needs to be on the same Wi-Fi network. Use classroom mode, I've sort of talked about that. Teleporting for classroom management, that's really fun. You can get the whole class to teleport to different parts of the map. That's really quite amusing. Students are the experts. Okay, that whole idea of teach each other, buddy up, this is how you use these tools, because certainly they weren't going to get that information from me. Some awesome resources, pre-made worlds, pre-made tasks all ready to go. But yeah, just be wary of those pre-made worlds like my fail with the build battle edu. And for me, the next steps is, you know, I dabbled in using coding and computational thinking for teaching algebra last year, and Minecraft has got a coding aspect to it as well. So I want to see if, you know, we were using Scratch for our coding platform. So I want to see if we can use the coding platform in Minecraft to help teach some of those algebraic concepts. It was really cool because a number of the year 10s wanted to create a challenge world for the year 9s. So that was quite cool. And then, yeah, really intriguing following up on this idea of teaching governance, you know, actually have the kids run a colony, if you like, and have it not only just build it, but actually this idea of governing it and what governorship means and how society works. So yeah, that's been my experience in with Minecraft. So again, happy to answer any questions either in the chat or later, or if you've got any questions now. But that is me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Sorry about that quick intro. That was a great presentation and awesome to see how you've been using Minecraft for the students to actually use, but also using Minecraft as a sort of a springboard to other things, like you said, about social justice and accessibility and etc. I'm going to stop talking. I do want to revisit what people were saying earlier about how they're implementing and integrating more ideas I'd like to explore themselves. But for now, I'm going to pause and ask for feed-ins. So if you'd like to talk to Andrew and ask him some questions, you can unmute your microphone in the bottom left-hand corner. You can also put your questions or wonderings or responses to Andrew in the chat box. And we'll just take a moment to pause because there was a lot in that presentation. The links are there. And I'm going to stop talking and use my wait time skills.
I'd just like to break the silence and say thanks, Andrew. I really enjoyed listening to your presentation. And I particularly like the way you were bringing in those social skills. And I was talking to Teresa before about using it to look at digital citizenship as well. And that could be quite easily brought into that world that you're creating, if you like.
Yeah, well, you have the classic case of when we're in this first world together, so there were 3 groups building their Mars base. One rogue kid left his group and went off to try and destroy another group's base. You know, so you can sort of have those
Fancy that.
conversations about, you know, not only virtual world, real world, but you know, those values and yeah. It's yeah. So that there's all these other elements. At first it just seems like a simple game that's just for kids. But there's so many layers that you can structure some learning around.
Thanks.
And as a scaffolding to that, and thanks, James, because James understands the nuances of this because he's about to share his primary version of this. What kind of skills, if you were going to rattle them off, you know how we like to back map and put it all against the curriculum and say that we're, you know, doing an educationally sound job here. I mean, what are those sort of really obvious, observable skills and attributes that you think these kids are achieving and obtaining by working in this way, by responding to challenges?
Yeah, so you can get into the back of the curriculum document. So, for example, that Science Island that was teaching the scientific method and practical investigations, and there's a number of, particularly in sort of the social science historical, you can build an ancient monument, and so you can cover that curriculum content. But for me, it was about the front part of the document, that collaboration, working together with a group of where kids don't always have the same skills. And it was really interesting, whereas, say in some contexts, a student would not be perceived to have value, i.e. in a sort of a sporting context, or maybe in a maths or a language arts context. In a Minecraft context, he's really valuable because he's got all these skills. So it was just another opportunity for kids to shine, I suppose. Yeah, so collaboration, that obviously it's creative. Obviously there's problem solving. And in our program, those are the things that we really try and focus on and teach deliberately.
Yeah, I love that, Andrew. And again, bringing real authentic context in, and then sort of contriving that. It's a really, a great idea that you've only got an hour to build that base camp because you've only got an hour of oxygen. So, that is really appealing about the urgency of how you've got to work together and fail, I guess, too, and fail again, but also learn to fail fast so you can move on and build new things and recreate. The other thing about publishing is that students love to publish, and they're our creators. That's the part of the designing and developing digital outcomes part of the new digital curriculum. And the example that I shared of the cat and the troll, the one person was actually just the videographer. She wasn't actually part of the story. There were two other characters, and she captured all that in different frames and different mid shots, wide shots, close-ups, and then mixed music over it. So there's the production element as well as, your photos are fantastic, showing about how that actually created that world. And then there's the production element of having that captured and sharing it with others too.
Yeah, and what's nifty, I came across the feature in Minecraft about the journal, or it's journal or portfolio, one or the others, but they can have this, as part of their inventory and use it to capture pictures.
Scrapbook. And
put captions on it. And then that can be submitted as evidence of learning in the non-Minecraft world. So that was really useful when I came across that little tool.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I've heard about that too. We're very famous, prolific Minecrafters are using scrapbook spaces where they craft their characters and then they bring them all into their land worlds and their other worlds. So if you wanted to sort of track that to see what sort of contributions your students have done because they're collaborating, that might be a nice idea as well. Thank you, Andrew. Please get the questions flowing. I know Nikki wants to know if you're going to ULearn, so you might want to continue to pop in there, Andrew, respond to some of those questions in there. Other people had said that they'd love to try Minecraft in an after-school program, or they know their son's using it and they want to use it at home for homeschooling. There are ESOL junior students who would like to use this. So on that junior note and year 8s and 9s, I'd like to introduce to you James Robson from Forest Hill. And James is going to dive in and share his Minecraft stories from his perspective at Forest Hill. So thank you very much, James. I'm going to leave it to you. Are you okay to present, or would you like me to? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I will share my screen shortly. Tessa is going to share the video because we've had issues with audio before. I'm just going to take you through my story, and then I'm going to add a few little bits in on the end if we're not running too much over time. I'm a specialist IT teacher at Forest Hill, and what I do is I take from year 0 to year 6, and I have the children for 1 hour a week, which you'll see as I'm going through my presentation. So I'll get started. Here we go. So, okay, this is, hopefully everyone can see this. This is where I first started in 2015 before Minecraft EDU. We had a lunchtime computer club, and that's where we got started. The first project we did was we looked at building team bases. It's sort of a basic challenge, a little bit like the building battle type idea. We had 8 teams, mixed age groups between year 3 to year 6. They were very excited to be taking part in it. This is my serious group, a little bit more serious about what they were doing. And each group, the way we had it organized is back then it was an IT suite. So We had desktops lined up and they just sat in groups and worked together. I'll show a video of this all happening at some point later on. Their builds are all very unique. That's one of the things that quite surprised me, how unique their actual buildings were from each other. We only had 1 hour per week to do this, so it basically stretched out for the whole term. I was definitely learning as we went along. So one of my questions I was a bit curious about, because we did a lot of work in Scratch, was how do you make a game in Minecraft? Because I'd heard the children talking about it. So I decided to ask that same group the next term, just that question, how do you build a game in Minecraft? This is an example of one of the games, which I'll get Tessa to show in a minute. So this was just 2 students worked on this. Really no input from me. I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I'll let you have a look at that now. Hopefully that sound should come on shortly.
Hi, so we've been doing computer club at Forest Hill School, and this is what we made, me and Robin. So my name is Richard, and I'm going to show you what around. So first, this is a 2-player game, so you will need 2 players, but I only have 1. So to start, it's going to be someone over here, and who has a saddle and a carrot on a stick for the pig. And then someone has a bow and arrow and the bow and arrow, or the shooter's job, is to try to shoot the pig down and then they win. And the person with the pig's job is to get all the way around over here, all the way around here, and over here, and then when they reach this house, they win. But there's also another part. So we'll
1:39, I'll keep playing, sorry.
be starting. I also need arrows.
So we start button there.
I'm going to stop there.
And then we try to shoot the pig.
Maybe just have a quick look at how the game works. Another few seconds. But amusing when he misses the pig.
You need 2 shots to kill the pig. In this case, he won because he got to this house before I can shoot him down. So and then also, wait.
That's probably enough because it's a little bit laggy.
Okay, sorry about that, James.
That's all right.
I'm fascinated by the shooting the pig, so I'll leave it over to you to screen share and we'll do the next one in a minute.
Okay, so I'll go back to that screen share again. Here we go. Yeah, so the whole thing was, it was his other friend would be riding the pig and trying to get to that place. When he got to that place, if he didn't get shot twice, then he could, there was another challenge inside that building. He had to fight off something, and then he'd get an emerald, which would then allow him to go into another part of the course, which was a parkour course. And so you had to scale various things, and you could see in the distance there's a, in the top right-hand corner, there's like a tower with a long plank coming out of it. They would get to that point. He had a bow and arrow, and he would shoot a little button, and then that would give him the emerald, and that would finish the game up. So what surprised me is the amount of how much was invested in the project, and how much detail Richard could go into. It just blew me away. He kind of bumbles through the presentation, but that was like, he had 2 goes at it. So his second go, he talked about the second half of the project, and it was a little bit more coherent. I'll move it on to the next one. So I think this was the following year. No, actually this was the end of the term, we decided to do a collaborative project. So we just got all the people in that were interested into the IT room, and the children wanted to build. Here we go. Well, that's going to be it. It's very noisy. They wanted to build a North Pole. We called it the North Pole server, and they were building a sort of a world based around Christmas themes. And the idea is we're going to get the year 2s and year 1s and 2s to come and walk through this Christmas grotto type thing. So I'll let Tessa play the video on that one as well and see what that looks like.
I'm just going over this. Sorry, it takes a
You
little
might be aware you might need to turn your volume down.
Oh, yes. It starts off really fast too, and it kicks in. I'll turn the volume down.
That's probably enough for that one as well, I think.
Okay.
It's a little bit hard to tell from that video, but the kids were so invested in that project again. The engagement was incredible. The energy in the room was overwhelming. I don't usually have a room quite that loud, but it was amazing that there wasn't one child in that room that wasn't fully engaged in their project. So it's kind of really cool to watch and see the reactions between the children and how they were teaching each other as well. So if you want to relate that back to the curriculum, there's a whole bunch of those key competencies that are actually happening at the time. I'm going to share the next part of my presentation. There's one more video to look at. It's only a short one. Oops. So let's go to the next slide. So the following year, I discovered that we had an expert in our community, Jason King, who was actually one of my former students. And he's actually a professional Minecrafter at the time. And so we're going to, can we play that that link on there, Teresa? And then I'll move on through the rest of the slides. This is a little intro to Jason and what he does. Thanks.
Don't miss mid-year deals at Smith City. This LG TV is $1,588. Grab great prices on the weekend. And this Fisher & Paykel package deal is $1,249.
Gotta love the ads. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm not getting paid any extra for those.
Minecraft, my specialty subject, because if you don't know about it, your kids will. It's like Lego for the web. You can build buildings, countries, and whole worlds.
But did you know that Minecraft can also be a job and a very lucrative one? I mean, a 20-year-old who's putting himself through varsity thanks to Minecraft. Well, look, another youngster playing the web game Minecraft, ruining his posture, frittering his life away before a screen, and making money.
Around 25 to 30k a year, probably about 13 hours a week.
20-year-old Jason King builds and sells Minecraft maps for a living part-time. Minecraft is a kind of digital Lego. Beautiful structures that fly through cyberspace. Two-dimensional products of a profitable three-dimensional imagination.
Probably go for about 3 dollars.
How many of those would you sell?
Sell about 10 to 20,000 within a first week.
Wow. Jason doesn't get all of that wow. He's part of a team. His secret weapon? Speed.
I'm one of the fastest in the world at this particular building.
The fastest at a hobby that's become a job. That US dollar bill in the jar, a reminder. Dream big, work hard, and you can go from Mairangi Bay to LA and Minecon, a massive convention of Minecraft devotees.
Pretty much
Probably stop it there, I think.
Personal trainer Dad Darren wasn't sure initially that this Minecraft thing would give his boy a lift.
So I sort of thought, what is he actually doing in there? Is it just an excuse for sitting on a game all day?
Jason just bought a car thanks to Minecraft.
I guess he must be making some money. It might be time to pay Dad and Mum some board.
Creating buildings on the web has led Jason to study architecture. That's right, web game leads to higher education.
I'm paying my way through university with Minecraft.
The only problem with higher education, any architecture degree will have to compete with full-time Minecraft Go.
I think we make 100k more. Yeah.
The young man crafts success from a very unexpected
That's all right.
Such an awesome guy, Jason. And also, his first car, unbelievable. My first car, 1966 Holden Special filled with rust.
Oh.
Well, actually, I made it all about me.
I was like, no, I thought he had the same first car as you. I was like, oh,
beautiful.
that's nice for him.
Good. Stopping that. Anyway, it's probably going to be better if people can watch those videos in their own time, their own computers, so we don't get the sort of lagginess of it all. But that gives you an idea. It was quite like striking gold when I met Jason. So I'm just going to share back onto the slides so I can go through them. So this is one of his projects. He works for Blockworks, and one of the things he was telling me about was building a castle, a virtualized castle, so people could actually go through the castle and visit it and see what it's like before they actually go to the real castle, or instead of. There's a link on here that I've left. If you're interested in castles, you can go and have a look at that work. I found it pretty remarkable. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is Tu Honganunga Day, which is a community engagement day where staff, parents, and the wider community, they come together and they share an interest. And children look at what their passions are and what they would like, things they'd like to try out. And Jason and I collaborated, worked together on running this day for a group of about 30 children, all different age levels. So we started off, day one, we did a Minecraft training world, which is one you can just get off the Minecraft website. The following afternoon, Jason set up this island escape challenge where he spawned everyone onto this island and they had to work out from the clues he left how to get off it. So he'd left materials so they could grab those materials and put together, build a boat so they could get off the island. Most of the children worked that out pretty reasonably quickly. Some did not. Some got stranded and we had to manually move them onto the island. The next day he was talking to them how to build a zombie trap, and he used redstone for that, and that was quite interesting to watch, and the kids enjoyed it. Out of all of the groups, I think only 2 zombie traps actually really worked. That on the second day we finished with a survival type game, a little bit like was mentioned before. So moving right along, our next big project was Computer Club last year, and we tried building a mega structure, and it was sort of recreating that North Pole idea that we'd had before. So it was a center mega structure, and we had a team of year 5s doing that. It was really quite challenging, actually. What we learned from that is, because of the sheer scale, that we had to do a lot of rebuilding. And in the end, we had to get together as a group and talk about our roles, and we had to make a plan of what it was actually going to look like, and even down to little dimensions of how big is the foot going to be, what height is each leg going to be, because we had legs of different heights. And so it was quite a real collaborative effort, and it did take a lot of coordinating. So we get a lot of learning from that. In the end, we split the project up and had different teams on different parts. So you can bring that into your to computational thinking as your decomposition, if you like. Recently, just going back to something that Andrew said as well, in the old days when it transitioned between the paid version and the education version, it took a bit of time to work things out. Now there's a lot of good resources and lessons that you can follow online that make it nice and easy for you. And the main thing is just having a Microsoft account. These are some of the worlds that I've had a look at recently. The ISS, the International Space Station, is a really stunning world to look at. You can explore it. I'm thinking of using this with another teacher who is looking at a theme similar to that, and looking at how we can use that model where the children can actually research things about the International Space Station and being in space, and make the whole space station a work through interactive discovery model, if you like, so they can go through and get information about it. Apply that information they've learned within the space station for others to go and discover that for themselves. Fantastic Mr. Fox is another world that I've had a look at. It is quite amazing. It is the world of Fantastic Mr. Fox being constructed out of the book. It has the models of the 3 farms, so and it also has the Fox's tunnels, so you can access Bogus Bunsen Bean's farm through going through the tunnels. It has that scene in the book where they're trying to dig out, if you know the story, dig out Mr. Fox and the digger, and you can spawn to that scene, or you can go and look at that scene. So I think there's lots of possibilities of how the children could go into that world as a group and retell the story or parts of the story. Or they could look at something like capturing a character and having an interview with the character on set, or something along those lines. The third one is the Adventure Island, and I believe it's based on a book. I haven't read the book or seen the book, but it's a really cool challenge. It's ready to go. You could just bring your class into it, divide into groups, and it's a really ready to build sort of game challenge that they can do. It's a lot of problem solving, a lot of opportunities to work together to solve that problem. So those are 3 free ones you can download and try with your children. I've dabbled with coding in Minecraft, and there's a variety of languages you can use, like Scratch and Tinker. It gives you those options on some of the worlds that you go into. I prefer the Microsoft Code Builder. They give you options of blocks or JavaScript, which is good for the older kids. I think their blocks are quite logical, the way they're organized. It is similar to Scratch, but I think they work better with the Minecraft game. I guess it's because they've been built purposely for that in some ways. The nice thing about this is that you can start with a very basic level, and that's a little code that I learned to spawn chickens. I've also managed to spawn bats, polar bears, foxes to try and chase the chickens away because we had far too many chickens. And it's quite a bit of fun just playing around with some of those easy little code blocks. The point of this is that it has got low floors and very high ceilings. So you can go into some really basic coding, or you can get quite advanced in your coding. This is the Code Builder tutorial, which is a free world you can go into. It allows you to control your agent, which is this little robot that goes along with you. You can get your agent to build things. This takes you through little trials. And I'm standing up here on a tower looking down. My agent has just done the first trial, and what you can see in the middle is the second trial, and it sort of works its way around with different trials. I found it a bit monotonous to start off with, but I think it's a good way for the kids to learn how to control their agent and what it can do. I thought I'd mention this is on the code.org site. It's a really good way for particularly the younger children to get used to using the code blocks, and it's pretty much bulletproof. It takes you through all the steps, very easy to follow. The tutorials are good. It's code.org is the same people that do Hour of Code. If you're familiar with it, it's quite a worthwhile thing to have a go at your school. We've done it over the past few years. You don't have to obviously have Minecraft installed for this. It just runs on your web browser on any device. Code.org's also got a lot of other great resources for coding, but this is quite a nice one to introduce your children to Minecraft. So I've got the links and things for that in the presentation. Now, I believe Minecraft fully embodies concepts and approaches in computational thinking. I know it's been said before, but it's a real incredible sandbox, and for problem solving, creativity, it's one of the best tools I've seen. And I like Scratch, but Minecraft has a whole different dimension as well to it. So all these things like tinkering, creating, debugging, persevering, collaborating, they're all covered within Minecraft, and the concepts as well. So this is where it really does link in well with the new digital technology curriculum. So what I've just did is take out Progress Outcomes 3 and just highlight a few things where I can see there are links and connections. Crafting, for instance, when you craft an item, that's also a bit like coding, so you have to follow steps. It's one of the major focuses in Minecraft, and it's all about inputs and outputs and logical thinking and sequencing, which is all about what computational thinking is all about. It also combines, if you combine things like redstone and switches and coding that are built into Minecraft, you basically cover all of the bases within computational thinking. Designing digital outcomes, so that side of it is also covered, particularly if you you are doing it, you have some sort of authentic problem, or this is something a little bit like what Andrew mentioned as well, is I thought you could design like a playground, or I think someone mentioned this in the comments actually, you could design a playground or a garden or something like that, and you could have your teachers and parents walk through this garden and decide, which garden are we going to choose? What design should we choose? What do we think looks best in our community? So you could apply those ideas in Minecraft, and that would be covering designing and developing digital outcomes. So that's my take on that. I'm still sort of progressing through my ideas around the new curriculum. I've just included just a couple of things that I think are useful when you get started. So I think it's been talked about before, but you can take photos in Minecraft. You just get a little camera, take photos of yourself. You can take photos of sport and put into other applications like into Google Slides or into Word or whatever you really choose to. Something else to talk about is you can, for teachers, this is really useful. You can make signposts with messages for players and direct them to places. You can also have these NPCs, the non-playing characters, and they can convey messages. There's a link here to a tutorial by Stephen Isaacs, and it's really worthwhile. It tells you all the sorts of things it can do and how to do it. For instance, the non-playing characters can also give you tools, and they can spawn events and things like that as well. So the other thing is the crafting table. Once you get into it, you can use elements to make other elements, and I've actually just in this example is the initial table where you can craft a crafting table, and that's going to give you more options for crafting. It's really quite an important part of Minecraft, so I recommend that you have a look at some of those tutorials as well. The other thing are commands. It's probably knowing how to craft and how to use commands. Like they're called slash commands, and you can teleport to different places. That's one, the TP one, but there's a whole raft of them, and it does pay to know a few of those when you get started. So lastly for me is I recommend having a look at the Microsoft Educators community. It's free. There are self-paced courses. The one that we're looking at right here has 10 modules, starting from how to get started with Minecraft right through to the coding aspects of it. There's a lady called Ann Taylor. She is currently the education lead at Microsoft, and you can get in touch with her through LinkedIn. And I know that in the past they've had sent out educators to schools that are interested, and they'll come out and give you wee demos and show you how that all works. And lastly, I just found this whilst exploring around. This is just someone's blog, and they've got a whole bunch of sort of tutorials based. He's teaching sort of year 3, 4 students. And if you're interested, there's some quite cool things to explore and look at within there. But we won't post that video, and I'm going to stop at that point. Hope I haven't talked anyone's ears off.
Oh my goodness, James. Wow. There is so much to continue with and go on with. Thank you for gifting us your presentation and all those really rich links in there. I had not known half of that about creating your own elements, and the other things that I can explore through some of those links that you've just shared. I can endorse the Education Microsoft website. It's amazing with the teacher resources and the lesson plans ideas in there as well. But I'm going to stop talking and pause. Would anybody love to pick James's brains or comment in the chat box or say something to James? It's a small group of us here.
I'm afraid I did lose track of the chat box, so I'm not sure what was said in there, but
I've just been popping your links in there, James. So if anyone wants to say anything now, and we have a real, we have 2 Minecraft gurus with us, so far away, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you, James. Yvonne's just said, what an introduction. Thank you all. Thank you, James. It was amazing. So between Andrew's story about actually showing us what one of those lessons looks like, right through to James's wonderfully noisy classroom where everyone's walking around the room and looking at each other's creative product and then going back and working on their own, through to all those links that we can follow through with. Thank you so much, James. Yeah, you did make it so simple, I must admit. The other thing I just want to sort of quickly touch on before we leave today, and I've got to talk fast, is the idea that we're in a gamification mode. So we're really trying to understand the idea that our students are not going to like a static and stale educational system. So if we can look at gamifying their learning, powering up their learning, working together, getting challenges to apply or to, to overcome and be a superhero in their own gaming world, then you can use the 3 things that Gabe Zuckerman talks about in terms of feedback, friends, and fun. And that's how they're operating out in the real world anyway. So if we could build in elements of that into our classroom, that would really be tying in their home world with their classroom world. Because to tell you the honest truth, that little cat and the troll video, I think it was 13 hours of absolute non-stop resilience, revisiting, learning, relearning, failing, reworking, lots of collaboration. And if students can spend that much time on their own, from lack of motivation from us, then imagine what they can do when we combine that in the classroom. So again, that's a little cross-Venn diagram I'll share with you in my presentation, a bit like James did, bringing in the elements of computational thinking, simple programming and step-by-step instructions, as well as the designing and developing digital outcomes with inputs and outputs, and then creating those creatively using Blender and Paint, etc. There is a thread, because we did rush through this today, and I'm going to leave the link in the chat box, and I'd love for you to go into there, explore some more of the examples, ask more questions, make contact with James and Andrew. The one thing that they both said was stay connected, get a mentor, get people to motivate you, and stay connected. So there are some links there. And if you do enjoy this, please, I'm going to put the feedback form link inside our chat box. And we would love for you to give us feedback about this webinar and any other sort of webinars you'd like to find out about. And I'm just going to end in a karakia, and if anyone wants to stay on and chat, they can. Otherwise, I'm going to bless you on your way to travel home safely. So kia ora tātou. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te atawhai o te tātou ariki a ihu e karaiti. A me tō aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga, tahitanga, ki te wairoa tapu, ake, amene. Kia ora tātou. Thank you very much for coming this afternoon. And if people couldn't make it, we'll let them know that this has been a recording to share.